Hey there, welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you're a repeat visitor. And if you are a repeat visitor, thanks. Thanks for checking things out. I hope these have been beneficial for you. I am Ben Lunsford. I'm a licensed real estate agent in Tennessee. Specifically, I work all over the greater Knoxville area, from Loudoun County to Blount County, Knox County, all around the whole area. And so if you're looking for something in the area, feel free to reach out. We're making our way through the steps of buying a home, and we're at the final step, which is the closing process. And during this closing process, there isn't much else to do, right? You've had your inspection, you've got your loan started, and you've gone through all of these other, jumped through these hoops, you've got your purchase contract done, you've done all these things. Generally speaking, there's not a whole lot else for you to do, okay? However, the one last final thing that is going to happen is going to be the appraisal. Now, your lender orders the appraisal from a third-party appraisal company. And so there's no communication that you get to have necessarily, or your agent has, or the lender has with them. You can't try to persuade them to make the appraisal good. That was what got us into the problem in 2008. But they're a third-party company, and they're often referred to as the Appraisal Management Company, AMC. And so that's this kind of last little hitch, we'll say. And so they're there to make sure that the property actually is in good condition and will be worth what you're paying for it. And I'll say even more so, worth the loan amount. And so what's going to happen, though, is the appraiser's going to go out and they're going to check it out. They're going to look at the finishes. They're going to look at the condition. One of the things that may come up is peeling paint. If you're getting an FHA loan, they got to make sure that there's no peeling paint on the home. They usually will also take a look and make sure that the roof has at least 5 years of life left in it. And they're going to make sure it's got heating and a way to cook. I know in one home that I purchased, I had to install an oven and a dishwasher. I don't know why the dishwasher, but I had to install both of those for the appraisal. So they're going to go through and they're going to check all those things. It's got to have flooring. You can't have just the subfloor. It's got to have actual flooring. And so there's a few of those kinds of things they're going to look at, but they're going to be comparing the finishes. Does it have granite countertops, or is it cheap Formica countertops? Are they old, 40-year-old cabinets, or are they brand new cabinets? So they're going to look at all that stuff to determine a value of the property. Now, the appraiser is going to turn in this report, and they're going to say it has a value of X. And they're going to say it has a value of X with conditions, or a value of X with no conditions. Okay? Now, these conditions are things that need to be fixed on the home in order to meet the value. And I've had this happen a few times, but one time I had a property where the seller was building stairs around the outside of a shop to build a loft inside the shop. The problem was, all he'd done was about 2/3 of the stairs. There was the bottom portion of it didn't have any stairs on it at all. It was just from about 4 foot high on up had stairs, and there was no handrail. And the appraiser was like, it needs a handrail and more steps or whatever. We just had them take the stairs down, and then we were good. It didn't really cost anything. They just had to go and take that stuff down. So that's an example of having conditions to meet the appraisal, okay? And the conditions could be a variety of different things, but that's just one example for you. Now, in my career, I would say that I've had 75% of the time, the home comes in at value, meaning you're at $300,000 purchase price or a $400,000 purchase price, the appraisal comes in at $400,000. Then I would say about another 20% of the time, it comes in over value. And this has actually happened multiple times on homes that I've purchased for myself, where the appraisal came in about $10,000 or $15,000 over the purchase price. And I've had that for my clients. I had one actually about a year previous to making this video, where it was a higher price point, and the appraisal came in about $90,000 over our purchase price. And so that client had a bunch of equity immediately as soon as they got their home. And so The appraisal is not looking at taxes or tax assessed value or anything like that. The appraisal is looking at other sold properties and active properties in the same area as the home you're purchasing. Now, if you're doing the math, I said 75% and 20%. That leaves about 5% of the time that the appraisal has come in low. All right. Now, nobody wants to have a low appraisal. And why appraisals come in low? Well, it's a variety of reasons. Number one, the condition of the property. Number two, it was just overpriced to begin with. And maybe for whatever reason, when you looked at comps or whatever, you thought you were given a good price and the appraiser just disagrees. And in that scenario, there's a few different options. Now, every state is a little bit different. So make sure and talk with your agent and your lender for that matter before you put an offer in. Say, if the appraisal comes in low, what are my options? I recently heard of a state where you can back out, but you lose your earnest money. That's mind-boggling to me, but a lot of states, if the appraisal is low, you can back out and still get your earnest money. Many states, you can renegotiate and say, well, we were at 325, but the appraisal is 315. We need to bring the price down. And I can tell you, in my career, most of the time, that's what we end up doing, is bringing the price down. Well, for my buyers, bringing the price down. For my sellers, we've been able to make it work, I'll say, because of the buyer. But ultimately, you know, you have to know how to negotiate that and what's going on, and how do you negotiate that? How do you, if you're a buyer, how do you help the seller understand the house obviously isn't worth it and get them to come down? But that's part of the process. And so, in the, you know, sometimes you split it, whatever. But after the appraisal, once that's all settled and done, then at that point, everything goes into the underwriter. Typically, though, all of your documents and things that you've turned in have already gone to the underwriter, and the underwriter is there to look at everything and compare it to what their rules are for risk tolerance and say, is this the right income? Is this the right debt amount? Is this, you know, they're kind of checking everything out. Then they'll slide the appraisal in there. And once they slide the appraisal in, then they will, you know, do the final underwriting and just make sure that it's all good so they can give you a loan approval. Now, during this underwriting process, they may update your credit report again, check it out again, okay? So don't go doing weird stuff with your credit until after it is closed. You get keys in your hand, next day you can go do something, okay? But they may ask for bank statements. They may ask for an updated pay stub. They may ask for a letter of explanation for something that's happened. And so it's important to be on top of these things and communicate with your loan officer and respond quickly to the underwriters so that you don't delay the closing process. Once underwriting is satisfied, okay, they're going to issue you a clear to close, CTC, all right? They're going to say you're clear to close. When you're clear to close, that means now all the documents can be sent to the escrow or title company, and then they will start that process of actually closing. One of the things that you want to be on the lookout for is something called the closing disclosure. Okay, the closing disclosure is something that came about, I don't remember exactly when, I want to say 2017-ish, where they're going to issue you this disclosure. It's going to have your estimated monthly payment, what your interest rate is, the APR, your down payment, all that information. It's all estimated. It's estimated until you actually close for whatever reason. But anyways, they're going to issue you this, and from the point that you sign that you received it, you have to wait 3 days before you can sign your closing documents. And so you need to be on the lookout for this, because if you don't sign it, you're delaying your closing. And most lenders that I've been talking with and working with over the last, well, since 2017 or whenever this started, they try to get that issued early on so that we're not up against a deadline. But it is important for you to be watching that and be communicating with your lender to make sure that you know that you have it. I've had a couple times where my client didn't know they signed it. They got it and signed it just because they were just like, click, click, click. And I was like, have you gotten the closing disclosure yet? They said, I don't know. I don't think so. I talked with the lender, we go back and forth, and finally realized they did sign it. Now, here's where things do vary state to state. a lot, okay? And this is the actual closing. So you've waited your 3 days and it's time to sign your documents, get your keys, all that kind of stuff. And I'll explain 2 different states just so you can see how things vary, how things are different. And then talk to your agent and find out what it's like. What is it like for you in your state and in your area? So in Washington, what we would do is typically the seller might sign sometime the week of closing. If you're closing, let's say you're closing on a Thursday, okay? They might sign on Monday, Tuesday. They might even sign Thursday morning, okay? When the seller signed wasn't super important, as long as it was prior to when they really need to close. The buyer, however, would always sign the day before closing. And that was because once they signed, everything went back to the lender. The lender did their review, and then the lender would fund the loan, meaning they would send the wire to the escrow company. And then once the escrow company had all of the money from the buyer, money from the lender, and all of the documents, then they would take it to the clerks, the county clerk, and record those documents. Literally, they sent a courier, somebody that would physically take those documents. Now, in the late teens, 2019, 2018, and then even more so in 2020, they started to do a little bit more with digital recording in some counties, not all counties, but they still had to physically record it. Then we were closed. Now you get your keys, buyer. So in theory, the buyer could be signing on Thursday, on Wednesday, seller could be signing on Thursday morning, and then you wouldn't close maybe until Thursday at 4 o'clock. Depends on when the money came in and when they could get to the closing. And if you're not getting recording numbers until, say, 5:30, well, the buyer may not be getting the keys then until Thursday night at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and they're not moving in then until Friday, okay? Now, I'm in Tennessee. In Tennessee, it's different. If I recall correctly, the buyer and the seller are supposed to both sign on the same day. And once the buyer signs their documents, it's closed. Because the title company, here it's the title company and title escrow, the same thing, but the title company is considered a proxy for closing. And so if they have everything, it's considered to be closed. So typically, buyer can go in on, if we're going to close on Thursday, buyer signs on Thursday, here you go, here's your keys. And then the seller can come in and sign. And so, but still, usually the seller is signing first, I believe. I'm not usually paying attention when the seller is signing relative to the buyer. So I just want to get my buyers in there and get them signed, right? But the point is, we don't have to wait for them to go in and record and do these things. They often just mail the documents for recordings. Recording may happen the following week, but they're considered a proxy, and so it's considered to be closed on that date. So talk to your agent. How does closing work? And what is the process? When do you get your keys, and how does all that work? You want to know that so you can plan for your move. Now, so that ultimately wraps up the closing process. And now that you have your keys, we've wrapped up the steps to home buying. And this is a basic, again, well, I'll say a basic overview, but it's been, 8 videos? They're all half an hour, 20 minutes long. So maybe a little more than basic, but there really is a lot to the home buying process. There's a lot to going through there. And it's why it's so important that you have a trusted realtor with expertise in navigating you through this whole process. And I'll say, especially now, right now it's October 2024, and there's a bit of a lull in the market. And there are properties that are been sitting for 60 days, 90 days. And there are properties that fly off, they're gone in a week. And so it's important that you understand maybe what to expect and how to, how you can best be prepared to take advantage of what's happening in the market. And so if you are in Tennessee, East Tennessee, and you want some help, give me a call. Let's chat. I'd love to help you. If you're in some other state, I have associates all over the place. I was actually just in Detroit recently, and met with other agents, and I'm constantly building out my network around the country, and I know people all over. And so I may know someone in your area. Reach out to me, and I'd love to refer you to a great agent who will be able to get the job done for you and treat you well and be professional and help you find that great home and make it work out well for you. And otherwise, though, stay tuned on this channel because we'll be continuing to do some stuff in regards to selling a home and all the steps there in selling a home. And we'll probably go through and just start fielding out other questions too. There's all kinds of questions that pop up on Reddit and other places. And so I may take some time just to answer some of those random types of questions. And with that, I hope you feel educated and empowered to take your next steps towards building your net worth through real estate. And before we take off, though, I wanted to just show you a little bit of this sweet park. This is John Sevier Park, and it's in the southeast side of Maryville. And if you don't know, Maryville's in the south of Knoxville a little bit. But anyways, want to show you a little bit of this park. And I hope you enjoy this here and would love to chat with you soon. Otherwise, see you on the next video.